Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of any other channel? And that's because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about Patrick Mahomes. There's been this big conversation about, game managers and stuff like that. And the whole idea is that Brock Purdy is just a game manager. And yet this season, Mahomes has not necessarily had this most larger than life season where you're just like, oh my God, look at these numbers. Like, his numbers were very average. And really the biggest reason why he got a Pro Bowl nod is just because he's the Patrick Mahomes. But he has really not been that special. And whether you want to blame the team, the drops, that's fine. That doesn't really matter at this point because he just hasn't been able to do Patrick Mahomes things. Of course, he's had moments, but it just without a doubt, this has not been the most high-flying and offensive Kansas City Chiefs, aka also Patrick Mahomes. And so the way how he's been winning has been through managing games, has been, checking the ball down more and things of that nature. So the real question is like, if it's working for Patrick Mahomes, why? And it's okay, then shouldn't it be okay for other quarterbacks? So curious to see what they have to say.
In a complimentary way.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Nice long career, really good numbers. Not a legend. Sorry. It is what it is.
Hall of Fame?
But
he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer.
Very, very good.
Henry McKenna writing, his career, this is Mahomes, has been all about exceptionalism, particularly in attempting and completing throws that no one else in the history of the NFL can make. And yet this year, he's more of a game manager than ever. So, Nick, do you agree that Mahomes is more of a game manager than Purdy?
Yes, because Brock Purdy's not a game manager, and Patrick Mahomes is anything you want him to be, he's the best. Do you need high-flying 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards first year as a starter? I can give you that.
Okay.
Do you need checkdowns? And the defense is daring you to take the short stuff. He won the MVP doing that last year. Like, folks are late to the Patrick Mahomes game manager party because last year his air yards plummeted. Last year, all of it, and he won league MVP. Do you need him to put protecting the football and managing?
Well, Jalen Hurts would have won the MVP, but he got injured.
The game first and foremost because you have a great defense. Yeah, he can be the best at that too. He currently is on the longest playoff streak in history without throwing an interception because this is the first time in his career he's had a great defense. And oh yeah, by the way, do you need him to be a scrambler? Great running with the football? Well, the two biggest plays of last year's playoffs were Patrick Mahomes with his legs. So he can be a game manager. He can be a gunslinger. He can be whatever you want him to be. People conflate these two terms when it comes to Purdy or other quarterbacks. Game manager, which he is not, and system quarterback, which he is.
So
Purdy,
you're saying Purdy's a system quarterback?
I'm saying Brock Purdy is a system quarterback with some gunslinger in him. Brock Purdy is like a homeless man's Brett Favre, miniature-sized. He is going to make some wow plays. He is going to make some what are you doing mistakes and throwing across his body. He is the wows and yikes we've talked about all year. Brock Purdy last year might have been. This year has not been a game manager. Brew keeps showing the stats about tight window stuff. That's not game managing. Right. And I keep bringing up because Brew loves PFF so much all of a sudden. They have him 8th most turnover-worthy throws, which is one of their stats on it should have been picked, but it wasn't or it was. So I don't look at Purdy as a game manager, and I look at Mahomes as a quarterback chameleon that if it demands game managing, he will do it.
Okay. This year, I agree with a lot of what you said, but this year Mahomes has definitely been more of a game manager than Purdy. And we got a graphic. These are some game manager stats, if you will, that would define what that is. It'll be up in a moment. But so here we go. Air yards per completion, that's past the line of scrimmage. Purdy almost doubles Mahomes. Purdy's second in the league in that.
Yeah.
Mahomes 31st. All right, you see the completions. Targets to your running backs and tight ends, because a lot of those are check downs and not going far down the field. You see Mahomes way more. Look at yards after catch. Mahomes leads the league in yards after catch this year. 63% of his yards were after the catch.
So I don't think that's game managing if you get
I
yards
think that's
after the
game
catch.
managing. I think those are your teammates have to run with the ball, but that's a short pass that they turn into something. In fact, early in the year, you were using that against Purdy. Like if he throws a 7-yard pass to Debo and
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how Nick can possibly challenge that when that's exactly right. That's what Nick has been saying about Purdy all this time, of like how special is Brock Purdy if he just throws a 3-yard pass to McCaffrey, then McCaffrey rips off for a 20-yard run. So that's just like, again, this is where Nick is always so inconsistent. He tries to claim that he's Mr. Consistent, but yet he just picks and chooses when he wants to accept a variable to matter. And if it helps Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, he says, yep, this is what it is. And if it hurts Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, he says, nope, that doesn't really matter, or that's not really true. Then he kind of waffles around it. So I definitely understand what Broussard is saying. But again, this is where, to me, stats can just be very, very misleading, because what Patrick Mahomes is doing, Patrick Mahomes has an inferior offense. He has inferior offensive weapons. No ifs, ands, or buts. And also those tight end throws, Travis Kelce isn't necessarily a check down tight end. It's a little different, I mean, some of those plays that he was making to Travis Kelce, especially in the playoffs, none of those were check. I mean, obviously, I'm sure some of them were check downs, but the big plays were not check downs, okay? Not in the way that we think of them. So I think that stat is probably somewhat misleading. A throw to Kelce for a touchdown against the Ravens, like that perfect throw, that's considered a check down. I don't know about that. And so I would say that Mahomes has been forced to be more of a game manager as of late, because last season he didn't have the same deep threat, and obviously Tyreek Hill. And then this year he doesn't really have the confidence in his receivers. The receivers are dropping the balls. They're just not good enough. They're young. They're lining up, off sides. It just has been trouble. It's been a lot of growing pains to figure that out. And Kelce is just not what he once was. And Brock Purdy, on the other hand, has the situation where he does have a longer leash. Like that's the reality, is that Brock Purdy this season actually has a longer leash than Mahomes, because Purdy actually has players who can get stuff done, who can make big plays, big catches. Ayuk, that amazing catch against the Detroit Lions, like outside of Kelce, and Kelce would have not necessarily been in that situation, but like who's really going to able to make that catch for the Chiefs? I don't really know anyone. And you're not betting on it. I'm sure you can say Rice or even Pacheco, who's obviously a running back, but like sure, you can throw out names, but like you're not going to put your money on that. I put my money on Debo or Ayuk making that catch, making that play. I just would, because that's who they are, and that's who they've proven to be consistently throughout their career. So it is such a luxury for Brock Purdy to kind of have this, where he could be a system quarterback and a game manager. And I'm not saying those are negatives at all, but then has the beauty of not only having Shanahan be able to draw up amazing plays to really put these players in a position to succeed, but also having the players that can actually get the job done. Okay? If I was playing quarterback right now, I'm obviously not an NFL quarterback, but if I was playing the quarterback position right now, I would undoubtedly look way better throwing the ball to Debo and Ayuk and McCaffrey and Kittle and having all these weapons, or if I was throwing to, say, really anyone else on the Chiefs, because they'll be able to pick me up when I make a bad throw, a throw that's a little bit behind them, a little bit low. Maybe I, misread the route, whatever it may be, misread the defense. Like, they'll be able to manage that way better and make me look better, and I'll look way worse with the Chiefs. That's just a reality. So again, and it works both ways. Not only can they kind of soften some of your issues and some of your, sweep that under the rug a little bit, but then it also puts you in a position to be able to make more, to take more risks, push the ball downfield more, because you know that Debo can just get up there and make a play, or Ayuk can make a play, McCaffrey can make a play, Kittle can make a play.
Debo takes it to the house.
But I don't. I just
that against him. So I do think that's you have to have it's on your teammates. If they can't run after the catch, you're not going to have many. But I would characterize that as somewhat of a game managing stat. But here's why Mahomes is not viewed, and rightly so, as a game manager, because he's already shown us how spectacular he is.
Sure.
Yeah.
If this was his first year, people would be saying he's a game manager. But he's shown us how great he can be. And even last year, he didn't dip like this. His yards per attempt were still higher than this, a career low. He still threw for 41 touchdowns. He didn't even hit 30 this year. So this is, to me, like James Harden. And I know he's better than James Harden, but I'm just saying, Harden in Houston was a 30-something point scorer. When he went to Brooklyn, and now you see it with the Clippers too, he became more of a true point guard. He still give you 20, 22 points, but he was giving you 10, 11 assists and the third scoring option. So we wouldn't look at Harden in Brooklyn or now with the Clippers and say, oh, he's just a pure point guard. Because we know when he wants to and needs to, he can score like anybody else or as well as anybody else. Same thing with Mahomes. We know when he has to, he can put on the cape. But for this year, he has been more of a game manager.
So I think really, though, the biggest difference is, I think what Brew just said is definitely accurate, but I think the biggest difference is that when you have a game manager, they can't consistently make those big plays when needed. That's the difference. When you have a true game manager, and this is what you see with backup quarterbacks. Backup quarterbacks can manage a game, or if they have the lead and the defense is playing great, a good backup quarterback can manage that game and, get out a win. But when they're down by 6 or something and, they need a touchdown, no field goals, got to get a touchdown, they have their moments where they do it and you're like, oh my God, right? And everyone gets all excited and you always have the mayhem, Minshew mania, or, Fitzmagic, like all those types of things, Nick Foles, like all of those types of situations, but they can't consistently do it. Pretty much any quarterback in the NFL, even a third stringer, can do some pretty awesome stuff at times, right? Like there's some quarterbacks who we will never see on the field, unfortunately. But believe me, given the right moment, they'll be able to do something that you'll be like, whoa, my God, that's amazing. That was unbelievable. But they can't do it all the time, or they can't do it at a high enough percentage to make their play worthwhile. And so that's the difference. So with Mahomes, though, anytime you need a magical moment from Mahomes in a game that he is managing, he can do it. Like his success rate feels like it's like 90+%. It's like you need a big throw. And to me, that the perfect example of this, and I think this goes so overlooked, is the game against the Ravens. Again, it was a beautiful play call by Andy Reid, and a courageous play call and a ballsy throw to make. But Patrick Mahomes threw a perfect dime, and it wasn't so fancy where he had to scramble and do this and do a sidearm, because that's the problem too with Mahomes, is that he did some of these throws and some of these moves that you were just like, oh my God, this is insane. He practically was closing his eyes, spinning around and going behind the back. It was just like Harlem Globetrotter stuff. So even if he just makes a really beautiful throw, you're just like kind of like less impressed. But that throw that he made to pretty much ice that game for that first down before the 2-minute warning, like that was a hybrid between game managing and being that dude and, being a game breaker, because you had to throw the most perfect throw at that moment. And it was during the moment where you had to have it. And it was at the highest stakes theoretically in that game. And it was to win the game and go to the Super Bowl, right? Like those stakes are as high as possible. And he did it. He was able to do it seemingly effortlessly. So to me, that's kind of what then makes you not be able to say that with him. And it's not like he was playing a bad game and then made it happen. He was just playing a really great, solid, complete game, then was asked to do this. And that's kind of somewhat of the issue with Brock Purdy, is that when people watch Brock Purdy, you watch him against the Packers or against the Detroit Lions, and he came up really big and had to be more than a game manager in those moments. And he succeeded with flying colors, scrambling, making some beautiful throws. But he did a poor job of managing the game earlier in the game, right? That first half, the beginning of for the Detroit Lions, like he was not being a good game manager. He was not playing well. And you can make the argument that the defense wasn't playing well. That's fine. I'm not hating on Brock Purdy. but he was not being a good game manager in that moment. The truth is that Mahomes, if you're asking him to be a game manager, and this is what Nick said, if you need to be a game manager, well, then he is the best game manager there was, or is right now. And I do agree with that statement. If you ask Patrick Mahomes to do anything, he will most likely be able to do it better than anyone else, right? It's anything you can do, I can do better. And for Patrick Mahomes, that just does seem to be the reality. But what do you all think? What do you think about this whole game manager kind of title? Is it, is Brock Purdy more of a game manager than Patrick Mahomes? Or, how does this all work? Would love to hear your thoughts. Please let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would truly love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really, really does help with the visibility and the algorithm, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.